Our patient is a 2005 Land Rover, Range Rover. This thing has some serious oil leaks. Upon inspection, the valve covers are definitely leaking, and that's how fluid will flow from the top to the bottom. So we have to fix those first. We're going to pressure wash the engine afterwards, and then see if there's any other places that have leaks that we can address. So in this video, we're going to walk through the process of how to replace the valve cover gaskets on this vehicle. So most of my in-depth instruction will be for the driver's side. That's a little more involved to get that one off. The passenger side is a lot easier, but I'll still film it. It'll just be fast forward, less dialogue. All right, let's get to it. All right, first thing we want to do is disconnect the battery. It's over on the passenger side. And then we take a 5mm Allen. We can take this engine cover off. It's just a quarter turn, maybe half turn. Next thing we want to do is take this little rubber off. And then there's two 13mm bolts. This side's already broken on this vehicle, but we want to just take this whole piece off, and it's just two bolts and it separates. So there's a rubber fuel line that needs to come off right here. So we need to depressurize the fuel system. There's a Schrader valve right here on the fuel rail that you can just use a screwdriver or something. You want to use a rag to soak up all the gas that'll come out of this rail while it's under pressure. Wear goggles. But that's how we depressurize the fuel system, is with like a little screwdriver to push that Schrader valve in and a rag to collect everything. Only a little came out. It wasn't as bad as I expected. So now we can go ahead and disconnect that hose in the back. Again, just using rags to soak up anything. So you see, this is the fuel line that we just took off, and it's just, you push this clip in and then it just separates. So there's really no special tools needed. They provide you the tool on the hose, but that's all you do. Push that in and it'll slide right off. So the battery cable here just has two clips that hold it on. Those can come off. So on the back there should be a breather hose connected to the cover here. On this vehicle it is in pieces. You can see it's just in pieces. It's disintegrated, but there should be a hose on the back of that runs across. So you want to disconnect it from this valve cover in the back. Now we can remove the ignition coil cover. There's two little caps on top that hide the bolts. You just take a little flathead screwdriver, pop those up. So here's a little caps that come off. And there should just be two of them. And those are two 10mm bolts. So now that the cover's off, we want to remove this grounding strap here, and then all the coils can come out. There's bolts there, and then these plugs come out. You just lift up on this metal piece, and they should just pop off like that. So that's how you can get the coils out, so that'll be our next move. Removing the coils, two of them were oil soaked. Now there's just the valve cover bolts that need to come off. 11 altogether is what it says. So we'll go ahead and pull all those off, and then this cover should separate. They're 10mm. So you got 3 of these bolts up front, and then the rest are just like these little nuts. So now I'll just pull up. So this box does not come off. It can't. So it is just a matter of, you just gotta wiggle it. Wow. Would have been nice if that was designed to come off. It would have given us so much more room. It's just a matter of wiggling. It was getting caught on these little cam cap bolt. It was just getting caught, so you had to just wiggle it, move stuff out of the way. I was afraid of breaking something, but all right. So now we want to just clean up the surface on the head here. I don't know if you can see, but right there, that silver looks like a little ring right there. That's a grommet that came off of the valve cover. So just give the wells a good look, account for all of the washers and bolts and nuts and things like that, because we'd hate to leave them in the engine. So now on the underside of the valve cover, you could just take off the old gasket. It should just peel off, and then this gasket too should peel off. Now, something to keep in mind, if you bought the Fel-Pro gasket set, it does not come with new grommets. So keep that in mind. You want to replace these grommets. They can leak just as bad, and if you look in here, these grommets, if they leak, it's possible they could leak into where your spark plugs are. So definitely want to replace the grommets. Fel-Pro doesn't supply them. It's kind of a bummer. So I got the outer gasket off. Getting this inner one, they're both very brittle. I don't see if you can, they just break. So I was having trouble getting it out without it breaking. Flathead screwdriver was helping. I was kind of walking it along. But you can also use one of these. If you just put it in the channel, you're not scoring, but you're just biting into the side of the gasket. I found that has been helpful, and then you can just kind of pry up on it. But this is pretty stuck in there. And that's just over time, these gaskets harden up. Especially if you're not changing your oil on time, that really does a toll on these gaskets. So we got our new gaskets pressed in really good so they don't fall out when we tip it over. So now we'll go to the engine, and there's some places that need RTV before this can get set on top of it. The places for RTV is right here where the timing cover and the head meet. There's a spot we just want to put a little RTV. Same down here for RTV. And then in the back, you can see where those little cups, that cutout is for the cam. They want the ridges. So right on that top corner, they want RTV on that corner. So these two corners, and then same over there, those two corners, put a little RTV. So all together, 4 in the back, 2 in the front. All right, all our services are prepped. Our RTV is where it needs to go for installing the valve cover. Interesting fact, if you're interested in facts, it says Ford right there. Interesting. It's a BMW motor, but obviously a valve cover made by Ford. So we're just gonna maneuver it in, wiggle it around. Not sure what, but my gasket snagged on something. It came out. Looks like it's ready to set in, but I want to make sure that gasket is still attached. Looks good. Then just make sure all your connectors and stuff I think that's it. And just make sure those caps in the back are lined up in those notches. I think we're ready to tighten her down. Now that we got all the bolts snug, we can go ahead and torque them down to 7 foot-pounds or 84 inch-pounds. I'll go ahead and just display the tightening procedure for this. Once everything's torqued down, we can go ahead and put our coils back in. Don't forget your ground strap on the third one in. We can go ahead and plug our fuel line back in, and I'm going to leave this coil cover off so I can monitor these grommets for any leaks. Once I do the other side and we fire it up, I want to monitor just in case there's any leaks or anything happened during installation, I can see it. So this side's done for now. I'm going to hop over and you'll just get a time lapse of the other side. There's really no way to film what I need to show you, but underneath, right where the light's on that tube, that's the bottom of the dipstick tube. So there's a bolt, just one bolt back there that needs to come off so we can remove the dipstick tube. So it's just this nut down there and that. So this is where the tube fits in, and then a nut right there, and it just kind of locks it in down there. Now I can't pull it out as far as I've wiggled and tried, so I think it's just okay moved out of the way. But the two top bolts up here holding it on are just part of the valve cover bolts. So Alright, so now we got that cover back on, that cover back on, the fuel line plugged in. We can go ahead and hook our battery back up and turn the key on and make sure we're not leaking out of our fuel line that we took off. If we're good to go with that, we can go ahead and start it up and let it get to operating temperature. Let the engine warm up real good and peek around with the flashlight, look for any leaks. Make sure all your grommets are not leaking, and then if no leaks, you're good to go. We can slap this cover back on, that ignition cover back on, and then our, I forget what they call that, but that heater box thing put back on as well. And then our engine cover. Well, there you go. That's how you can change a valve cover gasket on a Range Rover. This is, I believe, 2003, 2004, and 5. I'm not sure about any other years, but I know for those years for sure. This is a 4.4 liter. It is a pain in the tootie. They don't really give you any room, so you just skinning it by to get those valve covers out. Getting them back in, the one on the driver's side ended up, as I was wiggling it in, the gasket came off. So good thing I caught it before bolting anything down. Other than that, I'm just trying to think. The Felpro gasket, that's kind of a disappointment that it did not come with the grommets. So that's something to think about. I do recommend replacing those grommets. If you have oil in the spark plug well like this did, just clean it out the best you can and then pull the plug. Let any excess oil or leftover oil just go into the cylinder. It's not going to hurt anything. Clean it out real good with a rag or towel, and then clean the spark plug off. These were actually fairly new spark plugs. Now would be a good time to change them if you need to, though, since you're in there. Yeah, then put the plug back in, fire it up. It'll puff blue smoke for a little bit, but it should be fine. Anything else? I think that's it. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. See you on the next one.